On May 1, 2026, the U.S. Navy signed a $99.7 million contract with a San Francisco-based artificial intelligence startup called Domino Data Lab. Not a defense contractor, not Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or General Dynamics, a software company. A company whose product does not float, does not dive, does not carry sonar, and cannot neutralize a mine. A company whose entire contribution to the Strait of Hormuz mine clearing operation is a platform that teaches underwater drones to recognize mines faster. Thomas Robinson, Domino's chief operating officer, described what the contract actually buys in a Reuters interview. Mine hunting used to be a job for ships. It's becoming a job for AI. The Navy is paying for the platform that lets it train, govern, and field that AI at a speed required for contested waters that block global trade and imperil sailors. Before Domino's involvement, updating the AI detection models that power the Navy's unmanned underwater vehicles to recognize new or previously unseen mine types could take up to 6 months. A 6-month training cycle. In a strait that is actively mined, actively contested, and actively blocking 20% of the world's traded oil while a fragile ceasefire holds by the narrowest possible thread. Robinson described the relevance directly. If UUVs trained on Russian mine signatures in the Baltic needed to be redeployed to the Strait of Hormuz to hunt Iranian mines, with Domino's technology, the Navy could be operationally ready in a week rather than a year. That sentence contains the entire story of why the Navy chose AI over Minesweepers, and why that choice reveals something about the state of American mine warfare capability that no congressional hearing, no GAO audit, and no procurement review had been able to make visible until Iran started laying mines on February 28, 2026. To understand the choice, you first need to understand what the choice was actually between. The traditional mine countermeasure architecture the U.S. Navy operated for 40 years centered on the Avenger-class. 14 ships, wooden and fiberglass hulls, built between 1987 and 2001. Wooden hulls. That design decision was not sentiment or budget cutting. It was physics. Naval mines that use magnetic influence fusing sense the metallic mass of a steel or aluminum ship passing overhead and trigger the detonation circuit. A wooden minesweeper produces almost no magnetic signature. It can drive directly over a magnetic influence mine without triggering it while the crew works to locate and neutralize the device. The wood was the entire point. 4 of those ships, USS Devastator, USS Dexterous, USS Gladiator, and USS Sentry, were the last Avengers stationed in Bahrain, specifically positioned for the Persian Gulf mine threat that analysts had been writing about for 30 years. On September 25, 2025, the Navy held their decommissioning ceremony. The 4 ships were loaded onto a heavy-lift vessel called MV Seaway Hawk and sent to the Philadelphia Navy Yard. Their replacements were already in theater. The transition was complete. The Avenger era in the Middle East was officially over. The replacements were 3 Independence-class Littoral Combat Ships equipped with the Mine Countermeasure Mission Package, USS Canberra, USS Tulsa, and USS Santa Barbara. Their hulls were aluminum. Their mine-clearing systems were a combination of the common unmanned surface vehicle towing the AN/AQS-20 side-scan sonar, the Knifefish unmanned underwater vehicle for bottom mine hunting, the MH-60S Seahawk helicopter with airborne mine neutralization capability, and the Archerfish neutralization system for destroying detected mines. The concept was sound. Keep the ship outside the minefield, send the machines inside, eliminate crew risk. Let sensors and AI do the dangerous work. The 2025 Director of Operational Test and Evaluation report assessed that in fiscal year 2025, the Navy had conducted no operational testing of the Independence variant LCS with the MCM mission package. Operational effectiveness, the report stated, cannot be determined due to insufficient performance data. The unmanned influence sweep system had been assessed in 2022 at 29% operational availability against the Navy's own defined minimum threshold. A drone boat from USS Tulsa ran away toward Mexican territorial waters during a Southern California training exercise and could not be recovered. On February 28, 2026, Iran began mining the Strait of Hormuz. 2 of the 3 LCS Minesweepers were photographed in Malaysia. The third was in the Indian Ocean. The 4 Avengers were in Philadelphia. The Navy had no operational minesweepers in the theater it had been warned about for 3 decades. It had an unproven system, inadequately tested, deployed to the wrong ocean. And it had wooden minesweepers sitting at a Navy yard in Pennsylvania that could have been operational in the water that mattered. If you follow this channel, you know there are 2 procurement records for every capability gap. The one the Budget Office published and the one the operational theater reveals. The Navy's published record showed a controlled transition from wooden minesweepers to AI-enabled unmanned systems. The operational record, written in Iranian waters on February 28, shows what that transition actually cost. What follows is the second document. The IRGC Navy has tracked U.S. mine countermeasure capability for decades. The decommissioning ceremony for the 4 Bahrain-based Avengers on September 25, 2025 was publicly announced and reported by USNI News, Reuters, and Jane's Defense Weekly. Iran does not require classified intelligence to read the 3 most followed naval defense publications in the world. Iranian mine warfare doctrine was built around the expectation of Avenger-class response. Wooden hulls, purpose-built for the Persian Gulf environment. That assumption was accurate until September 25th. The IRGC read the decommissioning notice. The mining operation began 5 months later. This is where the AI contract becomes not just a technological story, but a strategic one. It was 3 parallel investments in unmanned and AI-enabled systems being deployed simultaneously. The Common Unmanned Surface Vehicle, the CUSV built by RTX, tows the AN/AQS-20 sonar through strips approximately 30 meters wide per pass, scanning the seabed without putting crew members at risk. It is operated from a LCS, or critically, from a small boat, removing the requirement for a dedicated minesweeper hull entirely. The General Dynamics Knifefish unmanned underwater vehicle, a torpedo-shaped, battery-powered robotic submarine launched from a small boat, sweeps a fixed pattern at the bottom, locating mines using low-frequency broadband sonar that can detect mines buried in sediment, a specific capability that contact minesweeping cannot replicate. The MH-60S Seahawk helicopter equipped with the AN/AQS-20 airborne sonar and the Archerfish neutralization system provides the aerial component, detecting mines from altitude and dropping the Archerfish, a remote-controlled mine neutralization vehicle that destroys mines using an armor-piercing warhead. Together, Israel Hayam's reporting confirmed. These systems, plus trained U.S. Navy marine mammals, are currently being used in the mine-clearing operation. The dolphins, part of the Navy Marine Mammal Program, trained to detect mines and mark them for divers or neutralization systems, represent a capability so unusual that its operational deployment in the Strait of Hormuz in 2026 became news in its own right. Dolphins have better natural sonar discrimination than any machine the Navy has built. They are also not classified, not AI-powered, and not the product of any recent procurement program. They were trained decades ago, and they work. What Domino Data Labs' $99.7 million contract adds to this system is the AI layer that determines whether the knife fish can recognize an Iranian Maham 3 or Maham 7 mine, the specific devices U.S. intelligence assessed Iran had deployed in the strait, as distinct from the rock, debris, sediment feature, or abandoned commercial equipment sharing the same seabed. Before Domino's technology, the AI model running on the knife fish's onboard processor was trained on a fixed dataset of mine signatures. If the mine is one the model has seen, it classifies it correctly. If the mine is one the model has not seen, a new variant, a modified fuse configuration, a mine deployed in an orientation or sediment context different from training data, the model may miss it, misclassify it, or flag it as an unknown requiring human analysis. Updating the model to handle the new signature required sending data back to a laboratory, training a new model on expanded data, validating the model against test cases, and pushing the update to the deployed vehicles. 6 months, from start to finish. The Domino platform changes the architecture of that process. Its software separates the AI model governance layer from the hardware layer, allowing model updates to be pushed to deployed UUVs in the field without the full laboratory retraining cycle. It monitors multiple AI detection models simultaneously using different sensor suites, side-scan sonar, visual imaging, magnetometers, and allows operators to identify when one model is failing and push corrections in days rather than months. Robinson's illustration of a Baltic-trained UUV redeploying to Hormuz and being ready in a week rather than a year describes a specific and real operational capability that the previous architecture could not provide. The decision to retire the Avengers was defensible, as written in 2023, when the LCS-MCM package was projected to reach operational readiness on schedule. It became a strategic liability when the package failed its operational testing. The specific miscalculation was not the transition itself, it was the sequencing. The Navy retired the old capability before the new capability was certified. The procurement office that made that call was not wrong about where mine warfare is going. It was wrong about when. The Domino contract at $99.7 million is the cost of that miscalculation measured in software. The 66 days of strait closure is the cost measured in oil prices, shipping contracts, and food security for the countries that depend on the tankers that stopped sailing. The technical story of Project Ammo, accelerated machine learning for maritime operations, the Navy program under which the Domino contract was awarded, is important. But the strategic story it tells is more important. Admiral Daryl Caudle, presenting on the future of mine warfare in early 2026, stated the trajectory directly. Mine warfare traditionally requires a permissive environment. The future is unmanned. His statement was not a vision statement. It was a description of the procurement reality the Navy had committed to when it retired the Avengers and bet its MCM capability on the LCS-MCM package. That bet is now being tested in live operational conditions that the package was never operationally certified to handle. The question the Domino contract raises is whether the AI layer can compensate for the gaps in the hardware layer underneath it. The knife fish with a better detection AI is still an aluminum-hulled vehicle operating in turbid, shallow water with temperature layers that complicate sonar propagation. The CUSV with updated models still generates the same magnetic signature that could trigger influence mines if it strays too close. The LCS that deploys these systems still cannot drive through a minefield the way the Avenger could. Faster AI recognition of what the sonar is seeing does not change the physics of operating an aluminum vehicle in a minefield designed to trigger on aluminum. What it does change is the speed at which the system adapts to the specific Iranian mine signatures being encountered in real operational conditions, conditions that no test range in Southern California can fully replicate. The Wall Street Journal reporting that the U.S. deployed exquisite technology and low observable capability to clear the safe lane described in CENTCOM's April 11th announcement suggests that classified systems beyond what is publicly documented are also part of the clearing operation. The Domino contract is the publicly visible portion of a capability stack whose full architecture remains classified. Cleared mines and certified corridors are different things. The Naval Institute's April 2026 Proceedings article stated the challenge precisely. The discovery of just one mine in the Strait of Hormuz would compel interested parties to assume there are many more. The challenge is not merely detecting mines, but proving their absence. Proving absence is the hardest problem in mine warfare. It is harder than detecting mines. A mine hunter that finds and neutralizes 99 of 100 mines has cleared 99% of the minefield. The insurance underwriter who knows about the one remaining device will not certify the corridor for supertanker transit. The shipping company whose vessel draws 70 feet of water will not send it through a lane that is 99% cleared. Proving absence requires systematic coverage of every square meter of the shipping lane, documented and certified to a standard that the International Maritime Organization and Lloyd's of London will accept. That standard requires the AI detection system to achieve a false negative rate close to zero, meaning it cannot miss mines. It requires the CUSV's 30-meter scan swaths to cover the entire corridor with overlap sufficient to eliminate coverage gaps. It requires the knife fish to operate reliably in the turbid, thermally stratified water conditions of the Persian Gulf that are worse than Southern California testing environments by every relevant metric. And it requires doing all of that while Iran has not fully accounted for the mines it placed and cannot guarantee no additional devices drift into the cleared lane from their mooring chains. The Navy chose AI drones over minesweepers because the minesweepers are in Philadelphia and the AI drones are in theater. That choice was made in procurement cycles before the war started, by budget offices that funded the LCSMCM package and retired the Avengers on a schedule that assumed the replacement was ready. The Domino contract is the Navy's acknowledgement that the replacement was not fully ready, and that the fastest path to capability in a live operational crisis is not new hardware, but better software on the hardware already deployed. $99.7 million to a San Francisco software startup. 4 wooden ships decommissioned 5 months before the war. 3 aluminum ships photographed in Malaysia on the day the mining started. And dolphins, animals trained decades ago, finding what the machines hadn't been taught to recognize yet. The Navy's bet on AI and unmanned systems is the right bet for 2030. The transition window is 2026. Iran mined the strait knowing the Avengers were in Philadelphia. Beijing is reading the knife fish test results the same week Domino signed the contract. That's enemy decoded.